Do you call yourself a radical?
Yeah, you know, if that's what radical means, call me a radical.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you are a radical. A radical idiot. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is basically the best condom saleswoman you've ever seen. Seriously, after hearing the stupidity that froths from those chompers, all it makes me want to do is slap a frickin' rubber on it. Cortez reminds me a lot of your crazy ex-wife who won 70% of your income for alimony. What's up, everybody? It's Hunter Avalone here, and today we are going to be talking about this sad, strange little specimen. So sit your butt down and prepare to be exposed to one wacko leftist.
My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Most of you have probably heard of Cortez, but for those of you who haven't, you're in for a real treat. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a 29-year-old politician, activist, community organizer, and outspoken socialist. She recently won a congressional seat in New York in one of the biggest upsets during the 2018 midterms. Also, it's important that I mention Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is from the Bronx, and she doesn't want you to forget it.
Neighborhood in the Bronx.
Hello, Bronx and Queens.
There's like an old billiards hall in the Bronx. BX, we got any BX out here? To my caseworkers on the ground in the Bronx and Queens. I don't think he knows how to deal with a girl from the Bronx.
Did I mention she grew up in the Bronx? Her father was also born in the Bronx, and her mother was born in Puerto Rico. She graduated from Boston University in 2011 with a bachelor's degree in international relations and a minor in economics. And trust me, she must have really minored in economics based on her seemingly clueless understanding of economics. After college, she worked as a bartender and a waitress. In 2016, she worked as an organizer for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. Finally, she won a congressional seat and was sworn in on January 3rd, 2019. Now at this point, you guys might be wondering, why am I wasting my precious breath on this kooky commie congresswoman? I mean, she's obviously just an unstable socialist who got elected, right? Wrong. This woman is absolutely adorned by the left. She has danced her way right into the heart of so many Democrats. The DNC's Tom Perez claimed Cortez represents the future of the Democratic Party, and CNN called her a new face for the Democratic Party. I can't believe I'm saying this on camera, but I actually agree with CNN. I've always thought the face of the Democratic Party should look just as crazy as their agenda. In all seriousness, it's actually pretty ironic that she's being called the face of the Democratic Party, because in many ways, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez represents everything wrong with the current state of the left. First of all, Cortez, along with the Democrats, have grown far too comfy with socialism. It reveals how much the Democrats want to tax the rich, and Cortez's insane ideas of how the government should be providing for us like we're all baby birds in a nest just reveals how entitled these leftist fools have become. One of the major flaws with Cortez, and I've seen her do this multiple times, is she assumes moral high ground to make up for her complete stupidity. Which brings me to my next point.
My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Cortez loves her some Cortez, and oftentimes she hides her disastrous policies under the guise of morally correct. Here she is on Stephen Colbert explaining what it means to her to be a democratic socialist.
You describe yourself as a democratic socialist, and that's not an easy term for a lot of Americans. What is the meaning of that for you? What does socialist mean to you?
For me, democratic socialism is about really, the value for me is that I believe that in a modern, moral, and wealthy society, no person in America should be too poor to live. That's what I feel.
So moral, so noble, so principled. Guys, being a democratic socialist doesn't mean you support one of the deadliest ideologies to ever exist. No, it just means you care about the poor. Let's hear some more of her moral ideas.
So what that means to me is healthcare as a human right.
I'm gonna have to stop you right there. How in the world can healthcare be a human right? The only way for healthcare to be granted to everyone is through the government. But the government does not give us our rights, it protects our rights. According to US National Library of Medicine, healthcare is not a human right for a couple different reasons. First of all, healthcare is difficult to define. Maybe a quick visit to the doctor is healthcare, but is an organ transplant, cosmetic surgery, or the most expensive medicines or surgeries also considered a human right? Secondly, a right possessed by an individual implies a duty on the part of others. Are your human rights now suggesting you have a right to a doctor's service or time? To propose that healthcare be considered a human right, it is not only wrong-headed, it is unhelpful. Mature debate on the rationing and sharing of limited resources can hardly take place when citizens start from the premise that healthcare is their right, like a fair trial or the right to vote. Ironically enough, entitlement rarely gets you anything.
It means that every child, no matter where you are born, should have access to a college or trade school education if they so choose it.
You realize this is just education inflation, right? If you tell an employer that you graduated high school, it literally means nothing, because high school is available to everyone. By making a college degree so accessible to the point that everyone has a degree, you actually deduct from the value of college, thus making this college for all notion near useless.
And, I think that no person should be homeless if we can have public structures and public policy to allow for people to have homes and food and lead a dignified life in the United States.
Oh, wow. Cortez is such a good person, guys. She just wants to help the poor. Too bad her socialist ideas actually harm the poor even more. Cortez's open support for socialism actually reveals how much of a fraud she is. If we look at a classic example of a socialist country, Venezuela, they have a homeless ratio of 6.68%. That's 2 million homeless people out of a population of 31.98 million. Meanwhile, if we look at the capitalist US, we have a homeless rate of 0.17%, less than 600,000 homeless out of a population of 325 million. But you know what? Who really cares if the facts aren't on your side? After all, facts don't really matter as long as you're morally correct. Because when you're a morally superior goddess, such as Cortez, you transcend all reasoning, facts, and logic.
I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
Yes, facts don't matter as long as you're morally correct, as long as your frail, beating little heart is in the right place. Do you realize how much you could get away with by using this logic? Your Honor, I did not rape her. That might not be factually correct, but my heart was in the right place. Guys, Haiti isn't a shithole. That might not be factually correct, but my heart is in the right place. Ocasio-Cortez certainly doesn't resemble a gopher in any way, shape, or size. That might not be factually correct, but my heart is in the right place.
My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez makes me doubt the validity of evolution. On the flip side, she makes it entirely believable that we came from apes.
On your 10 millionth dollar, sometimes you see tax rates as high as 60 or 70%. That doesn't mean all $10 million are taxed.
Now, this clip specifically is constantly being misrepresented by both the left and the right. So allow me to explain. The right is perpetuating the idea that Cortez wants to tax everyone at 70%, or at least tax the very rich at 70%. Now, I am certainly not on Cortez's side here, but this is just not true. Cortez was referring to a marginal tax. Going by the example she gave, that means every dollar you make is taxed at a normal rate until you reach $10 million. Then every dollar after $10 million is taxed at 70%. The left, however, is wrong about this also.
In what was called the golden age of economic expansion in the U.S., which is about, 1945 or 1950, during that period, the top marginal rate was anywhere between 70% and 93%. You probably didn't know this, did you?
This is a very common misconception that many on the left fall for. According to taxfoundation.org, proponents of this view often point to the 1950s when the top federal income tax rate was 91% for most of the decades. However, despite these high marginal rates, the top 1% of taxpayers in the 1950s only paid about 42% of their income in taxes. As a result, the tax burden on high-income households today is only slightly lower than what these households faced in the 1950s. Now, there are multiple reasons why that was, ranging from very few Americans actually falling into the top bracket. For the Americans who did fall into the bracket, the majority of their income was not subject to the top bracket tax, and most importantly, there are many studies that show that as marginal tax rates rise, income reported by taxpayers goes down. As a result, the existence of the 91% bracket did not necessarily lead to significantly higher revenue collections from the top 1%. This is key to why so many on the left, along with Cortez, is wrong with this proposal. If history repeats itself at all, raising the marginal tax on high-income earners won't result in that much of a difference. Plus, it only encourages said high earners to report less of their income. This is actually why I believe a flat tax rate is the best option. If everyone was paying 15 to 25% of their income in taxes, obviously the guy making $20 million a year will be contributing far more in taxes. Plus, we lessen the risk of income not being reported, essentially making the same, if not more, in tax revenue. On top of this hilariously stupid proposal, Cortez has a ton of other dumbass proposals as well, all of which kinda shoot her in the foot. Cortez wants Medicare for all, fully funded universities, a universal jobs guarantee, housing is a human right, and based on her interview with Colbert, government-provided food as well.
And public policy to allow for people to have homes and food.
So basically just suck Uncle Sam's pee-pee while he throws around the benefits. Make it rain, make it rain. Oh, and please, throw me a piece of rye bread. I am starving, Daddy. What's funny here is that Cortez doesn't even realize the jarring irony, and you'd think with her wide eyes, she would have seen this. If you have government Medicare, universities, jobs, housing, and food, there is absolutely no incentive to work. Why go to work if I don't have medical bills, rent, or groceries to purchase? There would literally be no reason to work. And guess what, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? If nobody works, there will be far less tax revenue to fund these insane proposals. Your proposals rely on taxes, but your proposals also cut out any reason to work or pay taxes. And in a final stroke of absolute genius, Cortez actually claimed illegal immigrants are more American than American citizens who oppose illegal immigration.
The women and children on that border that are trying to seek refuge and seek opportunity in the United States of America with nothing but the shirt on their backs are acting more American than any person who seeks to keep them out ever will be.
It's ironic because Cortez has previously accused Trump of manufacturing a crisis.
How he manufactures crises like immigrants seeking legal refuge.
But Cortez is manufacturing a crisis, or this idea that this caravan is full of poor women and children, herself. Even MSNBC's own reporter has debunked the notion that the caravan was all women and children. It was actually mostly men seeking jobs, not asylum. According to migrationpolicy.org, the highest percentage of illegals currently in our country, 26%, are aged 25 through 34, and the second largest percentage, 25%, are aged 35 to 44. So sorry, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, your manufactured facts are incorrect, even if your heart is in the right place. Even more so, it's flat out disgusting to suggest that illegal criminal foreigners attempting to disregard our laws and enter our country illegally are somehow more American than American citizens who want to respect our laws and properly vet those who wish to enter. Since when is breaking into our country and demanding handouts more American than living here your whole life, paying taxes, and working to be where you are today? Glad to see Cortez think so poorly of the American citizens who voted her into Congress. All in all, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a total idiot, disguising her awful policies under sympathetic morality. But I'll be honest, what pisses me off even more than the fact that Cortez is in Congress is the fact that people actually voted for her. The fact that so many lefties would rather overlook her abundance of folly because she's a woman, she's Latina. Oh, and she has an Instagram and a Twitter. Look, guys, she's dancing. She's quirky and fun. This just goes to show how brain dead so many members on the left have become. Imagine disregarding someone's disastrous policies and instead praising someone because she checks off your identity politics checklist. Or imagine voting for her because it makes you feel like a good little ally. Regardless of what the doting media or her doting fans say, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a total idiot.